Hello everyone and happy spring. We're about 10 days into spring. It doesn't really feel like it here in New Jersey. We are in the mid 30s. Has been for a couple of days now, but we're going to warm up soon. So that's really what we're looking forward to. But since we are in the spring season, I am making some spring decor for our home. I had found this pail and it was already painted and perfect for me to add some appliques using the Redesign with Prima silicone molds. As you see here, I already put one on. I'm using paper clay, and this mold is from, this is the cherry blossoms, one of my favorites. But what I do is I just kind of layer them all on, put a bunch on here. And to do so, you're going to want some cornstarch, some wood glue, some paper clay. I am using the DOS brand, but you can use the Creative paper clay, works just as good. A couple of small paintbrushes, and then some silicone molds. I have a big old pile here, but I have been doing this for a few years now, so my collection is pretty large. But really, to make a unique design, all you really need is one, maybe two of the silicone molds. So you don't need to go crazy buying, 15, 20 different designs. Although there are dozens and dozens and it's hard to choose, you really only need the one or two. So to get started, what you want to do is, I'm going to do this flower here. So you want to dust, wherever you're going to be putting the clay, you want to dust it with your cornstarch. This will help the clay release from the mold. Otherwise, it just sticks and you can't get it out, and it's a mess. Once I dust in all these corners, I just kind of tap out the excess because you don't want too much in there. Otherwise, the clay just kind of slides around. Okay. Then you're going to grab a chunk of your paper clay and then just kind of play with it and warm it up a little bit. Okay, then what you're going to do is press it down into the design. You want to make sure that you get it into all the corners. And you want it to be even. Make sure that you're doing this on a nice flat surface, a hard surface. That way you can really apply the pressure and get the clay in there. So what I do is once I push it to the edge, I just kind of rub my finger over the edge there and get rid of that excess. You can also use the epoxy resin instead of the clay, and that will give you a nice, really crisp, detailed design. But it's the resin isn't very pliable, so you can't put it on any curved surfaces. Really, it's a little bit more limited to where and when you can use it. So I prefer the clay. And I like the clay, the way that the clay looks once it's dried. It has some cracks in it and it just looks aged. And especially for this project that I'm doing, that's really what I want. I want that aged look. I don't want a very new, crisp looking applique. Okay, so I'm just going to go around all these edges and clean them up. Make sure that I do not have any clay hanging over. Sure that my middle is even, and I don't have a bunch piled up in the middle there. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Now this mold here is called the Winter Balloons. It's another one of my favorites, one of my go-tos. I love this flower. What you're going to do now is turn it over, and then you're going to turn it this way, slowly peel back the silicone mold, and you can use your finger to kind of help the clay out if necessary. But then it should just pop right out. Carefully lift it up. You can really see the details in there. Love this flower. So now what you're going to do is flip it over so that the back is facing up. Get your wood glue out. Dip a paintbrush into your wood glue. And then paint the back of the clay. Now you want to make sure that you do cover the whole thing and get the edges really well. But you don't want to pile the glue on there, because when you place it onto the surface, if you put too much glue, it's all going to ooze out. Then you're just going to have a big old mess. So just put a light coat on the entire back. Okay. And then grab whatever you are going to be putting it onto. I'm going to put it in this area here, and I want it to slightly overlap the cherry blossoms that I have there. So let's see, which way do I want to put that? So I'm going to put it about like right here, kind of overlapping in there. So now you're just going to lightly press it down into place. You don't want to press too hard and leave your fingertips, but you want to press hard enough to where you can really get it adhered to the surface. And then also to the other clay mold if you have another one down there. You can really get creative with these and make any kind of design you want. This one I'm just going to put a bunch of florals on here. But with all the different Redesign with Prima molds that are out there, I mean, you can really make some super cool designs. And then that's it. If you do end up having some glue that oozes out of the edges, what you can do is take a small detailed paintbrush and just brush it off. That way you don't have dried glue showing. Right, so what I'm going to do is go ahead and finish up the design here that I'm going to do, and then I will be back and show you how I paint them. Right, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys the next part that I do. When you do the clay and you let it dry, it does start to crack. Now I like that look. It gives that old age look. But there are some cracks that I don't really like. So I'm going to show you guys how I fix that. Like right here on this leaf, let's see if I can get it to focus. There's these cracks here. I don't like those, so I'm going to go ahead and fill them in. So what I do is I have just this tiny little dot of water. And then you're going to take out your clay. And you're going to get just a little bit. You don't need a lot, just a tiny little bit. And then I put a little bit on my finger. And then I dip that into the water. And then I'm going to rub that over the crack. And you can see them just disappear. Okay? And now they're gone. So you can do that with any of the cracks that you don't want. And then, you know, that clay dries very, very quickly because it's just a little tiny bit. And then when I store the rest of my clay, I just fold that up, but then I put it in a Ziploc baggie, and that will keep it from drying out. Okay, so now that I filled in my cracks, I have here, it's really just two different colors of paint that I then mix together in the middle. I have French beige and ivory tower, and then the two mixed together. These are both Renaissance brand chalk paint by Redesign. These are this is the brand that also makes the liquid wood that you can put on pretty much any hard surface. So what I did was I wanted the 3 colors because this pail was already multiple colors. So I'm just going to try to match that because I don't want to paint the entire thing. Now, if you have just a single base color, you don't really have to worry about being careful. But since I do not want to paint the actual pail, I have to be super careful to only paint the clay. So what I'm going to do is start off with a little bit of the French beige. And then I'm just going to go ahead and paint just the mold. And now you want to make sure that you get all of the edges because the clay is a very light color. So you definitely don't want any of that showing. What I'm going to do is just kind of get the multiple colors of paint here and paint each one and kind of blend it in and get the different colors, since I really do want it to kind of blend in with the color of the pail already. Then you're just going to go ahead and paint all of the clay. And again, if you have just a single base color, you can pretty much go to town and, paint over just the mold and not worry about getting any paint elsewhere. But I want to try not to get too much paint onto the pail itself. So you're just going to go ahead and go over all of the clay, and then I will come back and show you guys what I do next. Okay, so here I have painted all of the clay appliques, and I already did the other half. You can see that I added the wax to these, and it really makes all of those details pop. So I'm going to show you what I do to achieve that look. Nice big old wax brush and some clear wax first. So you're going to put some of the clear wax onto your big brush. You don't need a lot, but a good amount. And then you're going to go over all of the clay details and really get into the grooves. Because since I put the chalk paint on them, the wax is really going to soak up, the paint will soak up the wax. So if I were to put just the brown wax over the paint, I won't be able to really blend it in. So that's why you always add the clear wax first. Just make sure you get all of them really good. Next, I'm going to take brown wax. It's called browning wax, antiquing wax. It has a few different names, but you just want a dark brown wax. Then I just take a little brush, put some of the brown wax on here, and then I just go over all of the clay. And I make sure that I get this brown wax into those details. You want to get like all around those edges and into all those creases. And then you're going to take a paper towel and just go over. Remove any of the excess wax that's in these little bits where there is no clay. You want to remove that. And then you can see it really makes it stand out. So that's what I do. And you just go around the entire thing and do it that way. Thanks for watching.